the late 17th century, Salem Village, a small Puritan community nestled in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, was a place of strict religious beliefs and simmering social tensions. Its inhabitants, predominantly farmers, lived under the shadow of the church and the ever-present threat of the unknown. The Puritan worldview saw the world as a battleground between God and the devil. They believed that Satan could influence individuals, leading them astray through witchcraft. This belief, coupled with existing political anxieties such as King William's War, laid the groundwork for a period of intense fear and accusation. What began as strange behavior amongst a small group of young women would quickly escalate into the Salem Witch Trials. In the winter of 1692, two young women, Abigail Williams, the Reverend's niece, and Betty Paris, his daughter, began to exhibit unusual symptoms. They suffered convulsions, screamed, and claimed to be tormented by unseen forces. Other young women in the village soon displayed similar behavior. Under pressure from local magistrates, the girls identified the source of their distress: Tituba, a slave from the Caribbean; Sarah Good, a homeless beggar; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman known for her independent spirit. Under pressure from local magistrates, the girls identified the source of their affliction: Tituba, a slave from the Caribbean; Sarah Good, a homeless beggar; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman known for her independent spirit. These accusations marked the beginning of a legal and social disaster, rooted in superstition and personal vendettas. Initial investigations began quickly. The accusations of witchcraft rapidly spread beyond the initial circle of accusers and accused. The trials relied heavily on spectral evidence, testimonies based on dreams and visions. This evidence, while dubious, was accepted as valid in the court of law. Individuals claimed to see the accused in spectral form, tormenting them. Key figures such as the Reverend Samuel Paris, driven by their own anxieties, and magistrates Jonathan Corwin and John Hathorne, fueled the growing hysteria. They aggressively questioned the accused, often pressuring them to confess. Accusations were not made randomly. Social conflicts acted as accelerants for this period of paranoia. Land disputes, long-standing personal feuds, and religious disagreements served as fuel for the fire of accusations. For example, the Putnam family, a powerful and influential group in Salem Village, used the trials to settle scores with their rivals by accusing them of witchcraft. The trials offered a way for some to gain power and influence while eliminating unwanted rivals. To manage the growing crisis, Governor William Phips established the Court of Oyer and Terminer in June 1692. William Stoughton served as Chief Justice. This court was tasked with hearing witchcraft cases and handing down judgments. The trials were marked by flawed procedures and the acceptance of unreliable evidence. Take, for example, the case of Bridget Bishop, the first to be executed. She was accused on the basis of spectral evidence and previous accusations of witchcraft, although the evidence was scant. On June 10, 1692, she was hanged. Others followed, including Sarah Wilds and the Reverend George Burroughs. Burroughs was particularly condemned for his alleged displays of supernatural strength. He was hanged on August 19, 1692. Perhaps the most brutal example of the injustice of the trials was the death of Giles Corey. Accused of witchcraft, he refused to enter a plea, knowing that doing so would lead to his conviction. As a result, he was subjected to pressing. Stones were placed on his chest until he died. In total, 19 people were hanged as witches in Salem in 1692. Several factors contributed to the horrific events in Salem. The Puritan worldview, with its emphasis on sin and the devil, created a climate of fear and suspicion. Social and economic tensions within the community provided fertile ground for accusations, as individuals used the trials to settle old scores. King William's War and the constant threat of Indian attacks instilled a sense of anxiety and insecurity, making people more likely to see evil forces at work. Gender also played a significant role. Women, especially those who were independent, outspoken, or challenged social norms, were disproportionately targeted. The lack of proper legal representation and the pressure to confess, even falsely, further contributed to the injustice. As the months passed, skepticism about the trials grew. Prominent figures began to question the validity of spectral evidence. Governor Phips, influenced by these concerns, dissolved the Court of Oyer and Terminer in October 1692. The trials came to an end. Later, convictions were annulled. Apologies were offered to the victims and their families. While money compensations were made, nothing could truly undo the damage. The Salem Witch Trials stand as a dark chapter in American history, a powerful study of what can happen when superstition, fear, and social division combine. They remind us of the importance of reason, justice, and the protection of individual rights.